Hey, welcome everyone to the From the Shadows podcast. I am your host, Shane Grove. And before we get started on this week's episode, just want to remind everybody that you can find us at From the Shadows podcast on Facebook or our forum page, After the Shadows. You can find me at Shane Grove Author on Instagram, or find us at From the Shadows on Instagram. Or as Phil, the producer, likes to tell me, just tell them to go to the website From the Shadows podcast, and it has links to everything. So if that's what Phil's telling me to do, then that's what I'll do. So apparently Phil knows. But if you do go to the website, you can go to the contact button and send me an email. And if you have an experience or something you want to share with me and come on and be a guest on the show, I'd love to hear it. And then if you can't get enough of the From the Shadows podcast, and who can, right? We have a lot of extra content that's been going up on our Patreon page, and you can get the episodes commercial free and early if Phil, the producer, gets them up early. He's supposed to. You know, he won't listen to this, so he won't know that I'm throwing him under the bus. But anyway, so go check that out. Lots of cool stuff. So with that being said, everybody knows who listens to the show knows that because we're from Ohio. I'm in Ohio. We love Ohio stuff. Not to leave out the rest of the world, because we love stuff from all over the world, but we really love Ohio stuff, especially. It's fascinating to me because a lot of these places that when we talk to people from Ohio, I either drive through them, have been there, or it's close enough that I feel like I got to lock my doors. So with that being said, I want to introduce a big name in the Ohio Bigfoot investigation circles. Shane Spencer of the Woodbury, Ohio Bigfoot group. Shane, other than having a really cool first name, welcome to the From the Shadows podcast.
Yeah, hey, glad to be here. Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah.
So Shane, so we've already established you're in Ohio. So explain to everybody where Woodbury is exactly in relationship to a couple other spots in Ohio that people who are familiar with Bigfoot may recognize, and then kind of like tell us what, other than this is a real squatchy part of Ohio, tell us what got you started in this.
Well, start off with the location here. We're in Coshocton County, which is it's about 45 minutes below northwest of Salt Fork area, depending how many Amish buggies you get behind. But yeah, I should say about 45 minutes. We're probably less than right around 45 minutes from Mount Vernon, if anybody knows where that is. We would be east of Mount Vernon, no, southeast. But basically, what got me started into Bigfoot was my dad and my aunt and my grandma. There's stories of Bigfoot happenings around my aunt's place, which was in Richland County. My grandma had stories of seeing this big hairy monster around the place, and so did my aunt. It was my grandma and my aunt that was staying there. And so, but really what got it really going is me and my sister was at my aunt's house where she had these sightings before. And there was, back behind the swimming pool, there was an outhouse, just an old 4x4, half moon thing outhouse. And when me and my sister was right around 9-10 years old, beautiful, bright summer day, I can't remember if there was a cloud in the sky or not, but it was a nice sunny day. And this thing came out right beside the outhouse. There wasn't in it. So it came out right from the side of it and was standing there. And the average outhouse is what, 7 foot tall, 7.5. And the best of my recollection, it was as tall as the outhouse. And I know at that age, your imagination can go wild, but it was covered in brown fur hair, probably 3 inches long. What I can probably remember, it was lanky. It wasn't like it was a big stocky, like a Hulk thing. But it was still big, but it wasn't like, what you see on some of these Bigfoot shows of being 4 foot wide and 800 pounds. This one, if I had to guess, and that's gone a long stretch because it's been so many years ago, 350 pounds, 400 tops, but, and the thing about this sighting, it was my sister that seen it too. And we didn't stick around, it was beside the outhouse looking at us. And my recollection, I can remember the piercing eyes, like it was dead. I won't say predator eyes because I didn't stick around long enough to tell you what type of eyes it had. But, that's what my eyes went to its eyes. They were just staring directly at us. And we both took off screaming and running for the house, but as I grew older, these stories started coming on that, my aunt's house, they actually had sightings of this thing being back there at the wood line by the outhouse. And not only that, my grandma too. So that's sort of what got me started in the Bigfoot world at a young age. I can't say that that's what started my search for Bigfoot. That didn't happen till I probably got in my late teens, going out grouse hunting or fishing at night at Charles Mill Lake and hearing weird things and seeing humanoid foot tracks. Then my dad had some encounters too, and he was on law enforcement most of his life, so he's a very skeptical mind, but he had some things happen to him while hunting. And he never had a sighting, but he did come out of the deer hunting woods at my uncle's farm. They was hunting my uncle's farm, and they both heard a scream or roar, whatever it was, and they both come out of the woods at the same time, and then they conversed, talking about what we had heard. They had never heard nothing like that before. But there was basically, that's sort of what got me started in, once you see one. Could have that one been a guy in a suit? Absolutely. That one, I'm only 9-10 years old, I can't say for sure, that was a Bigfoot. But in my mind, at that age, it was a Bigfoot. I mean, it's covered there with toe.
So what are the, okay, so I want to dig into that a little bit, because what I imagine is that, because you're outside of Mansfield then, where you're talking about, right? Like where you grew up, where this property is. And okay, so if there's an outhouse there, this is rural country living, okay? Not that you guys were using the outhouse still, but at some point, this was a pretty rural piece of property if it had an outhouse on it, okay? So what I imagine is that probably a lot of people aren't running around out there in big, hairy gorilla suits, okay?
Yeah.
Because I imagine a lot of people out there probably have shotguns. And, now listen, I know LeBron's dad, real dad, lives in Mansfield. Okay. So I don't imagine that, and I know he's a big dude. Don't imagine LeBron's dad is out there on the property. You know what I'm saying? Because there's not a lot of people running around Mansfield that are 7.5 foot tall, 350, because you're talking about somebody who is bigger than a offensive tackle in the NFL.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? Not a lot of those people just running around. And so, I mean, even though you're saying, yes, it could have been, I can't hardly believe that it would be.
Yeah, that's more unbelievable than saying, that you did. Yeah. It was a suit.
Especially if your dad works in law enforcement. I mean, anybody that would say, hey, we're going to go scare these kids would have to know you well enough to know that, if your dad's around, he's liable to just pull out a gun and shoot. I mean, the threat of being shot, I think, would deter enough people from doing that.
Exactly. And what coincides with that, Shane, is my aunt and grandma had seen the same thing on different occasions, but there's still skepticals out there who say, "Oh, it's a guy in a Bigfoot suit." It is what it is. So it's.
Now, had you guys heard the stories from your mom and aunt before you saw this, or did that become known to you after you saw this creature?
It was afterwards. Yeah, after we got into 15, 16 years old, and Grandpa started telling some stories, and my dad, and I'm sure all that happened long after, me and my sister being 9, 10 years old. They didn't want to scare us any worse, so they probably, waited till we was 15, 16, and then
So you guys definitely told them about what happened then. You guys definitely. Okay.
Yeah. And my aunt confirmed it. My Aunt Agnes, she confirmed it because she was the owner of the property that lived there. Then my grandma, she was getting up in age, so she would stay with my aunt. So she had some things happen to her too, that they've seen it run, around the house or whatever. So
what was special about that property? Do you think that there was so much activity over so many? I mean, it had to be decades then if these guys were seeing them up until you guys were teenagers.
Yeah, that pretty much is sort of, the area's grown up now, like anywhere else. It's more of a suburb now. But there was supposedly, and I don't know how true this is, it was just passed down from the family that there was underground railroad tunnels, for the slavery running through that property. There was actually and down in the basement, there was a hole that they had sealed up, and there was tunnels running through the property. I don't know how true that is. My aunt sold that property probably, now I'm guessing, when I was 15, 16, 17. I don't remember, but what would attract them to that area, I have really no idea. It's, I don't know. I can't think of any swamps or anything, water sources. I don't know. That's a big question.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted specific. I mean, the whole area itself really lends. I mean, up from Ashland all the way down through there by Charles Mill. You can imagine, because it's very hilly. There's a lot of water. There's a ton of farmland and deer and livestock and stuff. So I could certainly see why that area would be attractive. I just wondered if there was something specific to that property. So your dad and uncle see this. Did they ever talk to you about it anymore? Like, so he's the skeptical person, and is he probably pretty analytical, being the police officer or the law officer? What did he conclude?
Well, I put it like this. He watches Expedition Bigfoot now. He's up in his 70s. So, he's been retired for quite a few years from law enforcement. But, he had some things with that scream or roar that he heard while him and his brother was out deer hunting. And then his father telling him incidences that happened in Kentucky, mysterious incidences. Then the one in Florida around that's north of Sarasota, because once Grandpa retired and moved down to Florida, and Grandpa was full-blooded Indian, not that it makes any difference, but he liked the outdoors,
Mm-hmm.
There was one national park there in Florida. I can't remember what it's called, but it's just above Sarasota. It'd be northeast of Sarasota. But he would go out there in a secret fishing spot there, I guess. And I guess one evening he went there and he was getting his poles in the water, getting his bait all together, his lantern, getting ready to set up for dark. And here's something like bipedal walking, and it come up within seeing distance. And he said it was just this big black humanoid figure. So Grandpa wasn't no little guy. He was like probably 280. Worked in the West Virginia coal mine, so he had like a 58-inch chest, 19-inch arm. He was just huge, and he got out of there. So he never went back to that fishing spot, especially just before dark. If he would go, he'd go, in the morning. But yeah, so that's so these stories are handed down to you, and from your childhood. And another thing got me started was Leonard Nimoy and search. That was an awesome show, Boggy Creek, that just intrigues your mind there. So yeah, that was I guess it's the unanswered questions, the unknown, that keeps us interested in things. If we had Bigfoot in a zoo and there he is, snap a picture, big deal. But this the unknown, that's what keeps us coming back.
People making reels of Bigfoot on Instagram, it'd be like, big, So then now have you gone on to have other experiences then as you got older that made you want to start researching? Or because I could sense that you are probably like your grandpa and your dad, you like to be outdoors anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I moved down to Coshocton County. It's gone on probably 6 years. I've always looked for Bigfoot since I was a teenager, mainly tracks. I was mainly into tracks. I didn't know nothing about the teepee structures, the arches, stuff like that, the X's, and I didn't know nothing about that. I had somebody, actually David Wickham, that actually got me started into some of that. He's big into the Bigfoot world, really good researcher. And so I got more into that part of it. Then I opened up my Facebook, Woodbury, Ohio Bigfoot. And I was learning, and still am, Somebody might tell me 10 things and I might know 9 of them or don't believe 9 of them. But if I can take that one thing and add it to my way of thinking and knowledge, then I try to do that. But really moving to Coshocton County, I know I searched before a lot of Mohegan because I was on grouse hunting there, squirrel hunting. Mohegan's just a beautiful place. If you've ever been there, it's just a beautiful place to hike or fish or camp, whatever. But then there was Concosing Wildlife Area that we had the farm by for 17 years that I learned. But I really didn't get seriously into Bigfoot until about 6 years ago, where it's on my mind every day. When I go out to the woods, I'm not just going hunting for squirrel or deer. So I'm going looking for Bigfoot, or I should say looking for evidence of Bigfoot, as far as tracks, the teepee structures, arches and things like that. But the main thing is when you're looking for Bigfoot is have good people around you. Because you're going to remember them good times, the campfires, the laughs, Because if you're just out in the woods looking for Bigfoot, it's going to be a boring, boring time if you're not enjoying everything else. Just, you can spend hours and months and miles and not come up with anything but blood from the briars and poison ivy. And so it's, you got to take it all in. Just how it is with me. But yeah. Now, the most recent sighting I had was at Woodbury.
Oh, really? And, okay.
Yeah, that was July 2022. I started, usually I'm in more of a midday, like 4 or 5 o'clock. Say it gets dark at 9, I'm more to start at 4 or 5 o'clock and, go just before, like an hour before dark and head back. You don't want to be in the woods at 2 miles and get turned around just before dark. So I try to get up, get out of the woods before that would happen. But it was one morning, it was probably, I think I arrived like at 9 o'clock in the morning. It was just July, it was hot, but it was a rainy, misty day. The rain was on, rain was off. Perfect day to be in the woods, It felt really good being out. And I'm back off the main road, I want to say the state route, probably right at a mile, where you park at. Then I walk back in probably. Usually what I do, I pull up a map, topography map, and point out a point of interest on a map. When I call it reconning an area, that's where I'm looking for water sources, funnels, finger ridges, potential food sources for far as cattails, skunk weed, stuff like that. So I said, yeah, this point A looks pretty good. I'm going to hike there. And that's how I usually do on my recon. Before we set up a night investigation, I like to recon an area and see if the food and water sources is there. Because if the food and water ain't there, then the animals are not going to be there. And I pulled up a calorie intake of a mountain gorilla, and it was like a 350-pound mountain gorilla requires up to 13,000 calories a day. So if you're a Bigfoot and you're 700 pounds, I don't know how their metabolism rate runs, but that's a lot of eating. So they're going to be eating a lot.
Yeah.
But I walked back in probably, maybe 3/4 of a mile, half mile from where I parked. Like I said, I'm already a mile off the main state route back a long lane. No houses, nothing around. It's probably one of the most remote places you can get at Woodbury, or really close to it. In summertime, July, you don't have nobody around. The occasional guy or woman, fishing, but there's 150 ponds at Woodbury, so you're not really going to run into anybody. Just go up a place and there's another car parked, I'll go somewhere else. I just want to know I'm by myself. And so I got the camera up, just panning around as I'm walking, trying to talk real soft, and hey, there's some little red berries, potential food source for Bigfoot. We don't know exactly what they eat. We have some idea, but then and I told one of my friends, I said, this is like it's staged, like I staged this, but this is what happened. Got the camera, panning around over this way, and the pond's over here to my right. And I get this weird feeling that something's watching me. And I said it when I was making the video, I said, I feel like something's watching me. You just get like you're at the red light, and you park there at the red light and you feel like somebody's got eyes on you, and you look over and somebody's looking at you. Or you're in the woods and you got a deer behind you, and you got that feeling like, what in the woods? Oh, there it is. So that's the feeling I had, like something was watching me. I panned the camera around towards the pond where I had that, and I seen a black figure over on the other side of it. I didn't know what it was. It was just a split-second thing until it moved. And it just took off. You've probably been to the zoo where you've seen a gorilla run and they go hands like this, when they're running quick. It took off on all fours, probably in a flat area of maybe 50 feet before it turned uphill and ran diagonal up the hill. And when I seen this, it reminded me of a gorilla, but a lot bigger, at a zoo with a big head, no neck, and just flying up that hill on all fours. Bear didn't come to mind at all because, the bear's head's small comparatively to its body, but it had a dome of it, more like a gorilla. I had to calm down. I was by myself. Like I said, I'm over a mile and a half back in from the main road. So I sat for about 10 minutes and trying to take it all in. I said, Shane, you're going to have to work up nerve to go to the other side of that pond. And this ain't a grass cut, mowed, manicured pond. Thickets and hillsides. And so I got the nerve. I said, Shane, this is for science. You got to do it. That's my saying. You got to do it for science,
Hey, whatever it takes to get you to walk into the house on fire. You know what I'm saying? I mean, holy smokes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 10 minutes, somewhere in there, I calmed down. Well, not really, but I got manned up enough to said, well, I'm going to go to the other side of the pond. I got to look for tracks, If I don't have nothing to back up, because I didn't get it on my phone. Because I have my phone like this, and the briars and weeds over the edge of the pond were just higher than my phone. And I didn't think to go up like this Because when you're in the moment of seeing something, you're in such disbelief, the last thing's on your mind is getting your phone up. If I had knew that 30 seconds before, yeah, I'd have my phone up and here we go, baby. Hit the start button. But it never works out like that. But anyway, I said, I got to get on the other side of the pond. Look for tracks. Maybe run into this thing again, which I highly doubted that, or I probably wouldn't have went over there. But I had to look for tracks. So I get over there. It takes me 15, 20 minutes. I mean, just through briars. I'm going down little indentions, in the ground, like little hollows that are treacherous. And there was probably an easier way to it, but I didn't know the back area of the pond too well. I'd never been over there. So as I'm getting over through there and I start looking for tracks, I see some, like, I won't say them handprints, but there was like that motion where it went like this, where it took the ground and moved the ground and made a little mound of dirt and,
Yeah.
Where something, like I had seen, went hand over hand running. So I found them and they were spaced out. Oh, and I lost all that footage. I had one of them cheap Walmart phones with the built-in SD card, and my phone blacked out and I lost everything. I had some prints, the hand things. One track that I did find that was about 16 inches was going the opposite way from where it ran. So I figured,
like it was walking down to.
Yeah, like it came in, went to the bottom of the pond. We seen each other, then it ran back from where it came. So I had that. So I knew, like I said, well, I know it's not a bear now. Somebody can't tell me, Shane, it's a bear, because I've got a track with pretty decent toe and indentations on it. Then the smell hits me. Well, no, let me back up. I sit down for a little bit more, just looking for evidence, trying to think it all out. Then there's with this pond, there's a big hill behind it with some small fingers. And I sort of lost the tracks of where it went, so I had three ways to choose. And once you go up to the top of the hill, it's briars and thickets, and went up the first way. And I thought, no, it didn't come this way because none of the weeds is trampled down. The multi-thorn roses ain't busted down. Nothing. Went the next way, nothing there. The third finger, then you could sort of see in the ground where it looked like something possibly, but there were so many deer tracks, it was hard to tell for sure that the third path was it. But I said it has to be, because the other two he'd have trampled down the brush. I mean, something that big. So I started following it, and the wind's right in my face. It's starting to mist rain again. Then that putrid smell hits me. It's like wet dog, sulfur, dead animal, and then just so strong, overwhelming. It ain't wasn't so strong that, some people say make your eyes water. Wasn't nothing like that, but it was strong. And it would come and go as I kept walking, around the pond back towards the trail. And I got to thinking, what if I run into this thing because I know I'm on the right track of it because I can smell it. It's up in front of me. I never did see it or hear it again. But as I walked a couple hundred yards, stopping real slow, just being real quiet and looking for more tracks. Which on top of the hill, if you're out in the woods much, usually the ridge lines is not conducive for tracks because all the rain comes off top and drains to the bottom. So you're going to find most of your track evidence at the bottom, the ravines, the bog, swamp type ground. But I did, before I got on the main trail, so I circled the pond, I did run into a skid mark probably 2.5 feet that was fresh, where something went down the little hill right before the path, and it must have crossed the main trail right there. But I ended up leaving, and that was pretty much that incident. I went back. We actually went back there this past Saturday, and set up a 9-hour trail cam. And we sort of camoed it in, and Darren Ritchie had some cedar chips or something that he used for like a scent cover we put up by the camera. We sort of got the camera up on about mid-ridge, so it's pointing down in that exact area where I had my sighting. So Usually trail cams, they don't never catch nothing, or it's a blurry thing, but we got it there anyway. We did our due diligence. So plan is to leave it up there 2 months, come back, get the SD card, put fresh batteries, leave it up for a total of about 10 months. So,
well, if that's a water source and a food source, probably with fish and stuff, and it's a good one. You think a creature like that's gonna be like, gosh, dang it, I can't go there. Well, that's there. I mean, if they're hungry or thirsty, they're liable to say, hey, cheese, smile for the camera. You might guess. Now, so thinking back to when you were a kid and what you saw, how does that compare to what you saw scampering up the hill?
This thing that I saw running up the hill was it was darker. It was more of a black or real dark brown, and it was bulkier up top, especially, and it was definitely a bigger head and shoulders. It was definitely bigger arms. I could guess at it, and I could be way off, but somebody said, Shane, what did you think that weighed? I said, well, figure up twice as big as a gorilla, 700-800 pounds. It was then the 16-inch track that I found,
So did you see this thing standing up?
It was on all fours when I first seen it. It was like, its front of it was higher like a gorilla was than the back of it. And it was just like standing there like a statue, because when I turned the camera around, it was just motionless until I stared at it. Then it just took off. Just beat the band didn't go straight up the hill, went like diagonal. There was some foliage on when we was at that pond, sort of the bottom of it, in the first, 30, 40, 50 feet. You can see pretty good. There's no leaves or nothing there. Mm-hmm. But once you get up in there, with the summertime foliage, I could just see bits and pieces of it running, through the leaves. But the first 50 feet, I seen it really, really good. Because I seen it before it took off running till it disappeared in the foliage, and I could see glimpses of it going up. That's how I went diagonal up the hill. But for me, it's good that I found the tracks and ran into the smell, because that put any doubt in my mind that it wasn't a bear, because a bear's not going to have that putrid smell, and it's not going to have that motion, like
yeah.
A gorilla.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Like, it's one thing to think it looks like a gorilla, but there's a distinct difference between a gorilla running on all fours and a bear. A bear kind of lopes, in my mind, and like you said, it doesn't get broader at the shoulders. It gets narrower at the shoulders and the head. At least any bear I've seen on video. So, so when you smell the scent as you're walking around, now number one, have you ever, you've been out looking for a long time, for years. Have you ever smelled that scent before?
Yeah, numerous times. Once you would ever smell that, you never forget it. It's like one time I went down to AEP south of Coshocton. It's the old coal land that's open to the public now, and I had ran into it down there, and I said, Shane, I said, I was by myself this time again, and I said, there's a pond and like some bog, swampy area, like peat moss. I said, let's rule out that smell first. And it wasn't that. Then I would walk a little bit, then that smell would hit me again, and I'd check the wind. I said, well, it's got to be on that ridge above me. And I'd walk a little bit, then the smell would leave, and it kept like it was paralleling me on the ridge. I never heard it up there, but just by the wind blowing off that ridge, that sometimes I'd smell it and sometimes I wouldn't. It wasn't a dead deer. I've smelled plenty of dead deer, and if you've been out in the woods, dead animals. This one was even a stronger, sulfur smell than the one that I had ran into at Woodbury. But I eventually made it up to the top of the high wall. It's like a small high wall ridge type thing. You got to do some climbing and walk that way back, because I never liked taking the same trail that I came in on. Because you're missing out on, half your trail is you're not going to find any new evidence that something's backtracking, Yeah, maybe I should start backtracking. But anyway, didn't find it.
But so as you're walking around that pond though, and you're smelling this, do you think it was hanging, just beyond your sight, and maybe following you to make sure you got out of there, and that's what you were smelling, or what? I mean, what do you? I mean, you don't know, but what goes through your mind out there when you're faced with that? Because you gotta try to rationalize it in some way, don't you?
Yeah, I told the story to, it might have been my wife or Mike Hartman. I said, it's like if you look out your window in your backyard and you got a potential bad guy out there and he's sneaking into your garage, which is 100 feet away, you're going to keep your eye on him. You want to know where he's at all times, as he's in territory in your home turf. So I felt like this Bigfoot was keeping an eye on me because I was in his turf. He wanted to know where I was at. And that's why I think I ran into the smell, because he should have been, by the time I got to the pond, 20, 30 minutes, sat there another 10 and tried them 3 different finger ridges. That was an hour. He should have been long gone.
So he wasn't scared of you. He just didn't want you to see it. So it's like me walking up to a house to deliver mail. Every dog's like watching, like, okay, what's he gonna do? And is he gonna, is he gonna come in the house? Is he getting on that? So yeah. So that just goes to show you, he's not scared. He's just like, oh, I gotta get out of here and hide, and then figure out what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I've never heard a Bigfoot story where I thought, oh man, that Bigfoot's really scared of the guy. Never heard.
Yeah, I had the feeling he was keeping an eye. Not really a feeling, I should say the thought,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sort of afterwards, like when I processed it after I got home, I thought, why did I smell that an hour later? But simple fact, he wanted to keep tabs on me. Maybe there were some juveniles around, or maybe there was more than just me. He didn't know that, and he hid and sort of, is there another guy with him? Because usually nobody's by themselves a mile and a half back in the woods, July, Usually you got your fishing buddy, but you're going fishing. And who walks through Woodbury, July, the middle of the woods? Nobody does. It just, people are going to go hiking.
So I'm curious here, because this is not something that I would do. Okay, I'm not going out by myself in the woods, especially with that intent. That I want to have this experience. So does it ever cross your mind? I mean, do you feel like I might be doing something crazy or irresponsible or what? Especially then, you're like, oh my God, I saw how fast this thing ran. It could run me down. I couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, it does, especially when I'm doing the army crawl. I've come to a briar patch. I can't go around. It's 10, 12 feet high. And I got to get on all fours and with my little clippers and go through. I'm always afraid of parting the briars and the leaves in the summertime. And there's one face to face with me.
Boy, that'd be a great scene in a horror movie, wouldn't it? Like,
yeah, I would. Now I did have an experience, and that would have been at Woodbury. I'm trying to think which month. I'm thinking that would have been July or maybe August. Might have even been, I can't remember. But I was by myself again, and we got this area, me and Mike, that we called the bog. It's where Mike had a sighting at, and it's at Woodbury. Mike had a sighting, I think that was in 2021. And I wanted to get into the back side of the bogs, not so much the bog, but across the road, and do a recon, see what the lay of the land is. It's got mature trees in it, water sources, what kind of grasses, cattails, skunkweed, whatever, just to get in there and get a lay of the land. And that smell hit me again, that putrid smell, and I'm back in maybe half a mile from where I parked, and that smell had hit me again, and I could hear like bipedal or brush breaking. There's brush breaking, but it was like a bipedal, one like a deer, where deer, and they snort at you. Yeah. This is making like heavy walking. And it's getting thicker and thicker. Then the smell will go away, and I get out my lighter and see which way the wind's blowing. I said, well, I got to keep heading towards that smell. And I wasn't convinced that this time it was 100% Bigfoot, the smell, but I said it don't smell like a dead animal. It's got that Bigfoot smell to it. So I'm doing my video, and I'm hearing stuff breaking, and I just start my video, and I'm there talking real light, and post the video, and somebody post on it. Shane, we heard that limb cracking as you were standing there still doing your video, and I never said nothing to anybody about that limb breaking. I just wanted to see if people would hear it, that it was close. I'm saying within 25, 30 yards, but it was so thick with the briars and stuff. And I thought to myself, I said, Shane, what are you doing here? I mean, if this thing comes out charging, or even bluff charging, it's going to kill me the way of the heart attack. I said, you're not going to get no video evidence.
Well, you might just make sure you fall on the phone and protect it, so that when they find you, they can find the phone, find the lost footage.
Yeah. So I started thinking, I'm not going to get nothing on camera, because if it comes out of there, it's 10 feet from me from that wall of brush. I said, you need to get out of here. I said, you're not going to get no proof, and that's when I'm out there. Now, if there had been an open part of the woods where he was hiding behind a big tree, sure, yeah, I'll try to maneuver and get a video. But this wasn't going to avail me anything if he come out of that brush off that hillside. So I ended up taking another route back down to the big woods. But if we'd have had a couple more people, we might have been able to surround it, sort of. And,
that sounds like a terrible idea to try to surround. I mean, I've tried to put a harness on a 2,000-pound steer. Okay. So, for my daughter's 4-H projects, trying to get them, and they're just messing. I can't even, and they're just dumb. I don't want to say dumb animals and offend somebody, but they're just like a steer is just like a kid and just playing around with you. There's no real intent to hurt you. Okay. They don't know any better, but I can't imagine like an 800-pound, fully formed, fully angry animal that has, a higher intelligence, who with intent would want you couldn't, you can't, those steers, even a 1,200-pound one, you can't hardly do anything to them. Yeah. And I'm not a little dude, okay, at all. And I just is they just wear you out. So I can't even imagine what a Bigfoot would do to 3 or 4 people, if it was really, really angry. Now I want to throw something out at you. We were talking about the smell, and because it's always thought that Bigfoot maybe seemingly thinks that us humans have the same abilities as it. And at night, when you're people have caught them with, night vision and stuff, and they'll step behind a tree because it's almost like in their mind, in the Bigfoot creature's mind, it feels like, oh, these people can see me at night the same way I can see them at night. Okay. So why wouldn't it cross their mind to know that we don't smell the same way as they do? And if they think that we have the same, and I mean, I'm just supposing this is a lot of people's experiences and theories thrown out, that they feel like, these creatures think that we are on a certain level with them out there, and that's why they, stay hidden and stuff. Why wouldn't it strike them that, like, oh my gosh, they're going to smell me because I can smell them? And they don't, unless they smell so good that bad smells so good to them that they don't realize it's. I mean, does that, you know what I'm saying? Does that? Yeah. I mean, that just crossed my mind. Like, I wonder why that doesn't resonate with them. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit.
Yeah, and there's some theories behind that too. That some of them roll in that skunk cabbage. The cover that, but that skunk cabbage is nasty. And because there's some reports of people having close encounters with Bigfoots and no smell at all, and there's some that are rotten, wet dog smell. So
and it would have to be so much worse in July, out there in the heat and with all that hair and stuff. It'd have to be awful. I can't imagine. And, anybody that has been on a farm and smelled, dead animals or even manure, and the combination of manure, I totally can understand how awful that would be. So what is, what do you think's going on out there? I mean, your sighting's not the only one out there. I mean, because Mike, you're referencing Mike. It's Mike Hartman. He's out there doing research and stuff. Like, how many, confirmed sightings have you guys all had that have been out there researching for researching this creature?
Well, as far as Mike, I'm not too for sure how many he's had. I know he told me of one. It's at the bog area there at Woodbury. I think that was 2021. Don't quote me on that date, but I know it was July, but I think it was 2021. As far as us as a group having sightings, we've had eye shine that was backed up, and by what we do, say we catch eye shine in the woods and we think it's a potential Bigfoot. We'll go back the next day or within a couple of days and do a recreation of what we've seen. And that involves going back, with your film that you got, your camera or whatever you use, and lining up the trees. You got the tree, here's the picture, here's the video of the eye shine. Now we got to figure out how the eye shine is, how tall it is. So you line up this crook of this tree, this limb's going this way, and got it. So now that another person walks back, we got like a billboard head of a Bigfoot, about 3.5, 4 feet wide in the head. And that person holds that up, and we line everything up. The tree limbs, trees, the branches, whatever there that you caught on picture or video has to line up exactly with the person holding the billboard of the Bigfoot head. Then David Wickham actually went with us on the one recreation. He's got a pole that goes to 10 feet in 1 foot increments. So we can put that billboard on, going up and say, yeah, just 2 inches below this limb. That way we got a height. And Mike's, the eye shine that we got, the ball was right at, I'm thinking 8.5 feet. Within 6 inches, it was 8 to 9 feet. And so that confirmed to us that it wasn't a deer. Before we even did the recreation, I told Mike, I said, I was back there before we did the recreation. I said, and weeds was up to my chin. So it wasn't a deer. Deer's eyes going to be below my chin. Then David confirmed that it wasn't an owl sitting on there was a tree like this big around. he said it wasn't an owl because there's no limb for that owl to sit in that tree, and that's the eye shine that you see. He said there's no branches. Then that phone just about fell. Then that putrid smell hit us that night, that same night that we had the eye shine. Then we had some distant, I don't know if it was howls or whoops. I'm thinking it was howls. And there's another thing. Sometimes Cody howls can sound like Bigfoot howl, howls. But this one was long, drawn out, like a two-tone howl. So it was definitely different. I think Mike calls it the Woodbury howl. And it don't really sound like a coyote, but we can't prove it. It's just something that we got, and it's intriguing. But it coincided with this rotten smell, which the guys blamed on my socks. And that's another story. I mean, my socks was wet, my shoes was wet. We had an ice fire going. Why not take your shoes off and your socks and hang them up there and dry them out? Hey, you should have heard them guys crying like cackling chickens on me doing that. But anyway.
Tell them it's bait. It's Bigfoot bait. Like Bigfoot's gonna smell at me like, man, who's that hot chick over by the fire? Yeah.
So they just razzed me about that. But so all them things coming. Then Mike had caught in convert. That's not the word I'm thinking of. Mike had caught something on video that had ducked down the same night on down the lane further. It was the black figure that ducked down. So he was scanning like this with his camera phone, or no, his night vision, I'm sorry. And you could actually see something as he's going slow, duck down. So we did a recreation of that the same day that we did the eye shine. The eye shine was in the same area, but a different spot. And with the pole and the Bigfoot billboard, we confirmed that it was 8.5 or 8 to 9 feet, somewhere in there. So you add up all of them, a couple maybes become a probably, sort of like Matt Moneymaker said on Finding Bigfoot, some maybes ends up to a probably. So we had the eye shine, the smell that night, and the black figure, which it looked like a humanoid, the head, the dome head, the shoulders, it had ducked down. And which at the time, it was like a shadow on the night vision. When you're looking through night vision, you sometimes don't see in great detail, and you might catch something that it sees you, but you don't see it. So that was intriguing too, that of what we found that night. So, but as far as group things, we've had wood knocks, which I think Robert Swanger's going to get with you. And he's a lot better storyteller than I am. He tells that story good on the 4 knocks we had. Then he's got some other really good stories. But as far as a group and sightings, we've got nothing that we can say is definitive Bigfoot. But we got a lot of eyes. What else is going to have 8.5 foot eyes? We rolled out an owl. So, and it was moving. It was moving from this side of the tree, then it moved over to this side of the tree. It wasn't like an owl, because you'd only see one eye, because it's this sideways. It was moving like a person would, It wasn't a person. We're in the middle of nowhere at 1 o'clock in the morning. So then we had heard some brush breaking that night, like something walking bipedal at different times around us, which a squirrel, when you're deer hunting, can sound like a big 12-point buck coming behind you, and you look and it's a squirrel. So at nighttime, things are amplified. You can't say it's Bigfoot. Yeah, it's a bipedal sound there. A 10-footer right there, come from the Western Fires to Ohio. And so you can't say that, but you can't say that's not either. So that's why we're out there with thermal IRs, night vision, audio recorders, and try to get something, as much tangible evidence as we can. But we need upgrades in equipment. That's one thing that we're going to work on this year. Is I've got some ideas as far as I don't know if I should tell all these ideas, but I'll tell a few of them. One is, I can't put all my chips in one basket, but putting GoPros and crows, decoy crows, setting them up.
Oh, okay. All right.
Duck. Oh man, I don't know if I'm going to tell this one. I'll tell it anyway. I want to put a GoPro 24/7 in a duck. The mallards, like they use for hunting.
Yeah.
And set him on the edge of a pond, and tie him off to the branches and have that camera scan 24/7. Just a small pond like that one where I had my sighting, and just put that drill a little hole in his body, put that camera in. I think I seen Les Stroud do that. He used what they called the grouse cam. And I want to get like the duck, the grouse, and the crow, and set these cameras up, and that way they're going 24/7. Another thing we have problem with, okay, say you're sitting with the guys at camp, you see eye shine coming in, or you hear crunch, 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 and eye shine. By the time you grab your night vision, because you don't keep it on all the time, it'll kill your battery. You turn it on, you set it on the IR settings, you get it focused. After 30 seconds, it's gone. So this year we're incorporating iPads with the Bluetooth, just having them run. If we're there 6 hours, just have them continuously run, have backup battery packs to where we just keep on the whole time. And you can go like maybe 30, 40 feet, from where you're sitting in your rocking chair, you're drinking your coffee. Hey, you guys got them Romanian noodles boiling, you're just sitting there in your rocking chair by the fire at 1 o'clock at night, and you're watching your iPad. You're not walking around scanning looking for something. So it's more of a relaxing, and it's always going. So well,
yeah. That all sounds like, it sounds like at least you guys are like, I don't want to say stepping up your game, because your game's pretty good, but it seems like you're trying to figure stuff out that's going to make it a little bit easier to capture.
Exactly. Because most of the time it's a fleeting moment where you're going to capture evidence of a sighting or something on thermal or night vision. One example, we had me and Mike, I think Josh Hensley was set up at Woodbury, and we had the most awesome whoop you'd ever want to hear in your life. It just whoop. We both heard it was like giving each other fist bumps, because I had my little $30 recorder going. I said, oh, yeah, we got it. Mike takes it to his house next couple days or something, cleans it up, and it's whoop. You barely hear it. You can hear that whoop. So it's like, oh, man. So that's the thing that we missed out there. It went from a 9, from what we actually heard, it was a 9. First whoop I've ever heard that clear and that close in my life. It was a distinct whoop. And I looked up whooping cranes. They don't make that sound in Ohio. There's no animal that makes that whoop sound. And then we break it down in the audio, and it's barely hear it. It was like, oh. So we missed that. So.
Well, nothing ever, even picture and video wise, like even if you had captured what you saw scampering up the bank, it's never going to be the same as you seeing it. The camera's never going to not anything that we have. And I see all these people, they get on these Bigfoot sites, and they're, saying they have these crazy, expensive equipment, and I will capture. It doesn't matter. It's not going to capture it the same as if you were seeing it with your eyes. It's just not. And the sad thing is that I almost think that any video or picture, unless you're within 6 feet, is always going to be subject to some kind of scrutiny. Somebody's going to find a reason to
discredit it.
Yeah, discredit it. But you know what? You guys know what you're seeing. You guys know what you're hearing. You're doing a lot of good research. You guys are close enough that you may even be able to talk me into coming down once. Totally. Go against.
9, you're in. Okay.
I'm going to tell you what, if I can get the judge to come with me, me and the judge will come down one time. Because it's intriguing to to think what is out there and so close, and I know that's what keeps you guys going out there to
Oh yeah,
really, really answer those questions.
yeah, yeah. And going back to what you said about the imaging catching the camera don't catch what your eye does. That's 100% true. I mean, I found good tracks, and you take a picture, then you look at it, and it's like there ain't no depth to it. It ain't showing the definition, and yeah, there's just
well, what really magnifies that is people that are taking pictures of UFOs. Okay. You know dang good and well if you're standing there at night and you see something, it's going to be as clear as day. But anybody takes a picture, it just shows up as a blurry light. It hardly ever shows up as anything substantial. So, I mean,
yeah.
and yeah, there's some great video cameras and stuff, but Phil, the producer, would have to bring stuff from the movie studio out to the woods. And let me tell you, it ain't worth how much that equipment costs to bring it out into the woods to try to maybe catch something. Now, the audio stuff, there might be some things that and I have to ask him, maybe there's some suggestions he has, because, for movies and stuff, there are different kind of mics that capture that stuff. And I don't know that all of them are super expensive. They're, you might be able to have something that you can have out there that can pick some of that stuff up that might be better.
Yeah, and Mike's got a pretty good audio system. I know he's got a lot of money in it, but it's the type that's big. You got to set up the mics and everything. And when you're hiking in a mile or so, you can't always take. We actually had chicken one night. We took a live chicken as bait for the Bigfoot. We actually, I had to tote it in a little duffel bag and keep its head out so it could breathe. But yeah, we hiked in a good quarters of a mile and tied it up to a gas line thing and put a loop lasso around his foot and tied it, and so I could just walk around. Then we went up another half mile into the woods and kept a game camera watching the chicken, but of course nothing.
I can't believe this. Something else didn't come get the chicken, let alone a Bigfoot. Jeez. Well, so I want you to tell everybody where they can find you guys on Facebook, because I know if they get on your Facebook page and join the group, they can see a lot of the videos and stuff you guys put up from some of your trips.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Woodbury, Ohio Bigfoot. It's a public group. Woodbury, Ohio Bigfoot. Then there's Dogmen of Ohio.
Yes, Dogman of Ohio. Yes, that's one I have not checked out yet. I'm looking forward to going and checking it out.
Yeah, that one I'm on the fence about. There's so many reports. I sort of open it up to learn more, and I'm not jumped completely overboard that I believe in them. I've never seen one or seen tracks, but there is a lot of credible witnesses of people I know that I believe them and they seen something, but for me to go on board saying, yeah, I 100% believe in Dogman, I can. Bigfoot, no problem, but Dogman, no, I'm trying to get there, but I need to see one, or at least tracks. If I can see the tracks, and hey, flesh and blood creature made these tracks. But it's interesting anyway. It's part of the unknown, so it's intriguing. So
I mean, the flip side of that is, did you ever expect to be walking in the woods and see something on all fours scampering up a hillside? That was just, to see that, you have to think, okay, what else? If that's out here, what else is running around?
Yeah,
that's the only way I can look, because I don't even want to think about it. I don't even want to think about it, because like I said, you just got to hope that there is enough human to them, to these creatures, that's why they just don't say, we're going to wipe anybody out that comes out into our territory, and maybe they're smart enough to know that if they did do that, that then there'd be more humans come out there to wipe them out. So maybe,
Yeah.
maybe they understand that, and who knows why they understand it. That's, maybe something happened in their past that has been passed down to say this was a bad thing. Leave those humans alone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's true. It's sort of like the bears. Most of the time, human presence, they're gonna try to get away from you. That's why you hardly ever see any. Or the big buck, that's 5 or 6 years old and stays away from humans. He knows not to interact with them. But yeah, who knows with Bigfoot? But you're gonna have to join us one night. Get a good night.
boy, some of our diehard fans are going to be sending me a message after this one saying, "All right, you said you said it," but hey, you guys are close enough. That might be a possibility. I might just have to do it once, just to say.
We'd love to have you. I think you'd have a good time. We set up perimeter detectors. They're basically, I could get them out, but they're just motion detectors. There's no IR on them, but there's 5 of them that we set up. Then I've got a home base monitor, and it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And my perimeter detectors are marked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So wherever I set these up, they're good for like 350 yards away from the receiver. So you'll be sitting there, talking at the campfire, beep, 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 beep. So everybody jumps up and looks, that's number 2. Something just broke the motion detector on number 2, broke the beam. Could have been an owl, could have been a deer, I try to set them up 5 or 6 feet, but I don't know how far they scan down. But what that does, that gives you awareness. Hey, grab your night vision or thermal. 200 feet away, number 2's gone off. If it's a Bigfoot, we're ready if it's coming. So
if it's going off at number 2, I'm running towards number 5. I'm just telling. I'm just telling. Well, Shane, hey, thank you so much for coming on and sharing these experiences. Okay. And I'll be watching now on the Woodbury, Ohio Bigfoot page, and despite the fact that Mike Hartman's on there, but I'll still be watching. But everybody go check out this page. Check out the Dogman of Ohio page, and I think we're going to have some more guys from your neck of the woods on the show here in the next couple months. So I'm looking forward to hearing some of their stories too.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. Yeah.
All right.
Them having me on and inviting me too.
Hey, it is my pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.